Fellas, it may surprise you, but Aeon gauntlets are really good. They received quite the overall with the launch of Season of the Wish, and I have found myself using them. Not just in PvE, I know, back in the day it was Sect of Insight, and that was like the main way we created heavy ammo for our teammates. But we've moved on from that. I actually find myself utilizing Aeon gauntlets in PvP of all places. But again, at the beginning of the season, all 3 variations of Aeon gauntlets were altered. Bungie wanted us to move away from just Sect of Insight and that heavy ammo spawner. Question is, did they succeed? We're gonna be covering all 3 of these sects though, their current functionality, and whether or not you should be using them. First up, we have Sect of Insight. Now this was like the only sect that anyone used prior to the update. Each of these sects have 2 effects though. The first effect from Sect of Insight is Aeon Inspiration, which reads, successive precision weapon takedowns have a chance to drop an orb of power for your allies. Now, to specifically spawn this orb, you need roughly 2 to 3 quick precision kills. Now this orb is a little unique as it grants exactly 3.57% super energy and only exists for your allies. Just like how orbs are spawned from our supers can't be picked up by us, the caster. So that's the effect. The second effect within the Sect of Insight is Arms Bearer Chance, and it reads, when you use a finisher on an elite, you generate special ammo for your fire team. When you use a finisher on a boss or a mini boss, you generate heavy ammo for your fire team. Nearby Aeon cult allies who do not have Sect of Insight role equipped also gain a burst of super energy. Now this is what actually received the change with Season of the Wish, as it used to grant Aeon cult allies with a different sect a 35% damage buff, but now it grants super energy. Now for the details here regarding the ammo, as it says in the description, elites give us special ammo, bosses and mini bosses give us heavy. Champions, when you finish them, will give you heavy. Matter of fact, if you have a Cenotaph Warlock shooting a trace rifle into a champion, and then you finish that champion with Aeon gauntlets and Sect of Insight, you'll create double ammo. It's wild, man. Now the bricks that are spawned here are like ammo finder bricks, which roughly gives us about 60% of what a regular brick would give us. Now for the burst of super energy, we're looking at about 2%, which is underwhelming. I would just rather have the buff to damage. Bungie, what the hell? Again, the previous damage buff was 35%. So this was actually a nerf. And maybe it was a nerf to push us to use the other sects. S-E-C-T-S. Now, despite the damage buff being removed here, the Sect of Insight's still good. Absolutely. There's a reason why in day 1 raids, we still break it out. When you need heavy ammo, this is the thing to do it. And yeah, I know Cenotaph is there, but you gotta jump through some hoops, right? You gotta use a trace rifle. You gotta find a Warlock that's willing to even use a trace rifle and use Cenotaph, which is a difficult task because every Warlock I know only knows how to deep throw Well of Radiance. But that's the beauty of Aeon gauntlets. It doesn't matter what class you are. Sect of Insight is present on all 3 of these gauntlets. Therefore, everyone can perform this role. The other benefits here though with Sect of Insight, which brings us to our next sect, Sect of Force. This sect's first effect is called Aeon's Wrath, and it reads, rapid precision hits with a weapon temporarily increase your reload speed and weapon swap speed. Now running the numbers here, upon scoring 4 precision hits within 3 seconds will grant that moderate boost to reload speed and handling for 10 seconds. Now this effect actually has pretty high uptime. It's not bad, but again, nothing crazy. The faster reload speed is really what helps you the most, but this passive isn't why people would use this sect. What's really got our attention is the second effect called Foe Breaker Chance, which reads, stunning a champion or landing rapid precision hits on a powerful combatant will mark them. Your allies deal increased damage to marked combatants. When a combatant is first marked, nearby Aeon cult allies who do not have Sect of Force role equipped gain grenade and melee energy. Now this is the portion that received an update at the beginning of the season, as this sect used to grant bonus melee, grenade, or super energy when stunning a champion or defeating bosses and mini bosses. Now this has been replaced by a 20% debuff. What's more is that this is a 20% stackable debuff. This debuff revolves around marking your targets, and to do that, it works utilizing the first effect, Aeon's Wrath. Activating the buff on an elite or mini boss or stunning a champion marks them for 30 seconds. Marked enemies are highlighted for allies, and they will take that 20% increase in damage. Now there's also an effect of this mod when running in a fire team with other Aeon users. When marking a target, Aeon allies not using Sect of Force receive a 33.33% grenade and melee ability energy per second for 3 seconds. This means with every mark, our Aeon allies are getting their entire grenade and melee energy back. These are some very potent effects, guys. Again, the biggest one being that 20% debuff, and again, it's stackable. If you want to hit him with this debuff and then run over there and hit him with a tractor cannon, you can't. Boom, you've got 2 debuffs on that target, which is a no-no in Destiny. After Bungie Bungie made the change way back when where you could only apply one debuff and one buff. But I do want to mention that Bungie was very deliberate with the activation here. This stackable debuff does not apply to bosses, only mini bosses, elites, and champions, which is why I don't think this is a bug. This was intentional. Bungie didn't want us going out there and melting bosses with us applying 2 debuffs, but they're okay with it if it's against mini bosses, elites, and champions, which in things like Grandmaster Nightfalls is literally everything. Now, how strong is the new beefed up Sect of Force? Guys, it's pretty good. Keep in mind, it's very dependent on the right activity. For instance, Coil, where you don't have a lot of champions, but lots of bosses, it fails to be super beneficial. But again, inside of GMs, it's quite potent. By damage stacking our normal sources like Surges, Lumina, and Tractor, alongside this new debuff, we can actually increase our cataclysmic damage from a base of 58,679 to a whopping 203,186 damage in a single shot. Fellas, that is a 246% increase in damage. And due to the debuff being so easy to activate, you can easily stack other debuffs on top of it. Some notable mentions include Divinity, Buried Bloodline, which is the exotic from Warlord's Ruin, Tractor Cannon. But I want to mention how great Divinity is here though. It will instantly proc the rapid precision shots, and in that moment, 2 debuffs take effect, resulting in your allies' damage doing 38% more. But Cross, that just sounds like OG Divinity. Yeah, I know, but this is the world we live in. Divinity's 15% debuff though, and Sect of Force's 20% debuff is stacking here. Now, Buried Bloodline will also perform similarly, only needing 2 shots to double stack debuffs, assuming you have Devour active with the Catalyst, giving us a damage increase of 38%, coming from Weakened's 15% and Sect of Force's 20%. And then you have Tractor Cannon, which of course requires you to swap weapons to apply the mark. But Tractor itself is easy to activate and will grant the largest stacking debuff here at 30%, and again that 20% from Force, giving us a total debuff of 56%. Now I'm trying to paint the picture that this debuff is very easy to utilize, and there are many ways to exploit its benefits. And I should remind you guys, you could take advantage of the debuff with only one person on Aeons. That being said though, there is still the Aeon synergy I want to touch on. Sect of Force will completely regenerate Aeon cult allies, grenade, and melees over 3 seconds. This means you're giving your teammates the ability to spam their abilities. And I know you're probably thinking, Cross, does that even matter if I'm not even utilizing an exotic that benefits from those abilities? You'd be surprised. The synergy is here. And unlike Sect of Insight, I find both the benefits from Sect of Force to be fantastic. Now this takes us to Sect of Vigor, our final sect for our Aeon gauntlets. Its effect is called Aeon's Vow, which reads, gain class ability energy and take reduced damage from combatants for a short time when an ally dies or when you resurrect an ally. Now before Season of the Wish, this only gave us class ability energy, but now we get some juicy damage resistance. Peering behind the curtain, allied deaths grant a 40% damage resist inside of PvE for 15 seconds and 25% class ability energy. Now I want to mention this damage resist, despite it showing up inside of PvP, is not in effect. Yes, it's on the screen, but no, it does not actually give you damage resist. We tested it, and I know it says combatants, but sometimes things still apply even when it's not supposed to. Cough, cough, torch. Now, reviving allies also grants that 40% damage resistance, and this lasts for 10 seconds inside of PvE, as well as a whopping 60% of your class ability energy. Now, here's the beautiful thing about the damage resist. It's stackable, meaning it can stack with things like Woven Mail. Recently, we just did a build battle video, which featured 6 Coyote, and we were running around, dodging, putting out our Strand clones. It was fun, but I would argue and say that Sect of Vigor with Aeon gauntlets is even better for this, as you're not only getting your class ability energy back very quickly, but you're getting that damage resist. Here's the problem though. This requires your teammates to die, but we're gonna talk more on that in just a second. Now, the second effect here is called Light Giver Chance. This reads, nearby critically wounded allies take reduced damage from combatants. Nearby Aeon cold allies who do not have the Sect of Vigor role equipped also gain class ability energy while critically wounded. Now, the specifics behind this one are allies at critical health within 10 meters receive 25% damage resistance in PvE. Aeon cold allies who are not using Sect of Vigor additionally receive 15% class ability energy per second. And the buff lingers for 1 second once no longer at critical health. Now with a secondary effect, we get even more damage resistance, but this time it's for our allies. That 25% damage resistance is stackable yet again, meaning you can combo this with things like Woven Mail, and this allows you to be very, very tanky. But that 10 meter range should be emphasized. If you're running this, you and your teammates really do need to hold hands, or they will not be getting that increase in survivability. Now for the Aeon synergy being the 15% class ability per second, this is a nice effect, but it isn't nearly as potent as the full grenade and melee energy that Sect of Force provides. And since it's tied to the 10 meter range, this effect will fail to be meaningful if, again, you're not holding hands. Surprisingly, this mod, even though it is nice because of the damage resistance inside of PvE, I actually find myself using it more inside of PvP. I ran around dropping clones, using round robin, and just playing 6v6, and because people are dying so often around me, I had my class ability back pretty much at all times, which combined with the aspect of the Spectre, I constantly had clones up. And I didn't realize how great clones were inside of PvP. You can either shoot it and create threadlings to chase down your enemies. You can also just hide behind it. Like I just found myself hiding behind it. And the aim assist from your opponents actually messes up when these clones are involved, from what I've heard. I've heard that it actually will drag the aim assist of your reticle, which means you could literally just sit there right next to it and let it tank damage for you, which is what I found myself doing a lot, even in PC lobbies. Just having it sit there and soak some damage, I would play around my clones. So even though this sect may not be as potent as the other sects inside of PvE, I found in PvP, it was really nice. So guys, those are all 3 sects for Aeon gauntlets. I think the biggest one is Sect of Force right now. Yes, Sect of Insight is still amazing for generating ammo, and no one's gonna be able to take that away from it. Well, no one but Bungie, if they nerf it. But Sect of Force, with the ability to apply that debuff, that's the one, guys, that I'm gonna be looking at most for team environments, especially inside of Grandmaster Nightfalls. For those wondering, Cross, why aren't the Aeon passives not hitting the bar? Look no further than 2% super energy that we get back from Sect of Insight. Listen, I get it. But that is, of course, the balancing act that Bungie is doing here. They may come out and be like, okay, 2% is not enough. Let's do 4% or 5%. And now we're really cooking. But the same also goes for Sect of Vigor. Damage resistance is very nice here, but I don't even need Aeon gauntlets for that. What I get there is 15% class ability back per second when I'm critically wounded and within 10 meters of my teammates. This is why Sect of Force is the one that stands out the most to me, at least this season. That full generation of grenades and melee for our teammates is amazing. The debuffs that are stacking, everything here is screaming the ultimate support exotic. Now, for those wondering, Cross, should my entire team completely convert to becoming an Aeon fire team? I don't necessarily think that's the way to go either. Honestly, I think the optimal way to use Aeons is just to rock 2 of them at most. One on for Insight for creating heavy ammo, and one on for Force for that debuff, and giving the Insight user the ability to let loose on their grenades and melees. But even if then, really just one, if you have a means of getting yourself ammo. For instance, our Battleground Nightfalls, we have ammo crates pretty much in every single encounter. Therefore, heavy ammo is really not an issue. I know ideally here, Bungie wants a team to be rocking Aeon gauntlets, and believe me, I would love to see that day come. I would love to look at a squad and say, all right, guys, you're gonna be on Sect of Insight, you're gonna be on Vigor, I'll be on Force, Aeon squad, unite! But that day is not today. In the meantime, though, rock Sect of Force. Keep rocking Sect of Insight, sprinkle it in your fire teams, and take advantage of these new upgrades. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.